This is another kind of requirement that Ron's team writes all the time, especially super early on. This requirement says the smart doorbell should occasionally perform a self-check of the motion sensor, camera, and communication system. So this one also scores a 1 out of 5, and some of the issues are kind of familiar. First of all, we have no clear imperative, and that is because we have an optional escape clause instead. Should makes the behavior optional. We also have a non-specific temporal word of occasionally that leaves the timing impossible to test. Occasionally does not actually exist. We also have that same ears feedback I showed in the other version of QVscribe, saying that this is ubiquitous and it is compliant in its current state. We also see some super helpful glossary terms that we can take a look at the definition of to just make sure we understand the context of this requirement and when we look at the change. With this in mind, I'm going to suggest the rewrite, and there we go. We get this offer of the smart doorbell shall perform a self-check of the motion sensor, camera, and communication system every time interval. The improvement's immediate. We go from that 1 out of 5 to a 5 out of 5. We have a mandatory testable imperative replacing the suggestion. And that vague timing has turned into a clear, reviewable placeholder. And that placeholder is completely intentional. It's a reminder to go back to the team and define the actual timing constraint. ReqWriter is not going to have the answer for you for that, but it does make sure that you have that question asked internally and you can get to the bottom of it. The intent isn't changed once again. The system still performs those periodic health checks, just with hopefully a more defined time interval. And the requirement is just now easier to read, implement, and verify. If we accept this rewrite, we can go ahead and copy it to the clipboard. I can replace it in this cell. I'll reanalyze everything. And now we have that nice, clean 5 out of 5 quality analysis score. Success. Now, Ron's team can go back to the team, the rest of the folks, and figure out what timing constraint they want this to fall within, and also just move on to the next task that they have for the day. So, before we move on to the next part and wrap up the demo, I want to take a step back and look at what we just saw across the Doors Next Generation and Excel versions here. We started with some real requirements, the kinds that Ron's team writes and sees every day, used QVscribe to pinpoint clarity gaps, and then with a single click used ReqWriter to turn those insights into clear, review-ready wording. Across both examples, we saw 2 different types of problems, one a bit more structural and one more related to testability, but it resolved in the exact same workflow. QVscribe surfaces the issue, ReqWriter accelerates the rewrite, and the engineer makes the final call. Side by side, it's super clear how ReqWriter closes the gap between analysis and action. It provides a consistent starting point for improvement without hiding the reasoning behind each suggestion. Authors can see the why and see why the rewrite improves the quality and decide what to do next. And that's how teams move more quickly from this needs work to do this is ready without really changing their work.